ASUS is making a drawing tablet. Yes, you heard me right, and the specs on this thing are really nice, but does it measure up to the other brands that are already out there? Let's check it out. Hello, my name is Brad. I review tech for creative professionals, and yeah, it's true. ASUS is making their own pen display now, and I have to say, I like a lot of what they're doing here. This is part of their ProArt line, where they make laptops and computer parts and all sorts of things geared towards creative professionals. So creating their own pen display that fits within that line actually makes a fair bit of sense. One thing to note before we get too far in this, if you're a Mac user, you get left out in the cold this time around. This only works on Windows. And if you're a Windows user, pat yourself on the back and feel proud. So let's just jump in and look at these specs. This is a 15.6-inch IPS display. It's full 4K and HDR. We've got great color accuracy and it's Pantone validated. On top of all of that, it is a touchscreen and it looks good. And I know, yeah, that is a dumb thing to say, but it passes the eye test. If you plug it in, you're gonna be like, huh, yeah, that looks pretty good. And oftentimes that speaks louder than numbers and specs on a box. This is also sporting a Wacom Feel powered stylus. This is tech that Wacom licenses out to laptop and tablet manufacturers. The S Pen that comes with the Samsung Galaxy tabs use this. I'm blanking out on who else uses it. Wacom uses this in their entry-level Wacom One line. It doesn't have the pressure sensitivity or the performance that you will see in the Wacom Pro pen that comes in like their Cintiq Pro lines. So if you're used to using something like that, this may feel like a little bit of a step down, but overall, it's a really solid pen. The more and more I used this, something just felt off about this pen. I was having a hard time putting my finger on it. At first, I thought it was that the pen had some wobble to it, and that totally confused me because I've used a bunch of these Wacom Feel pens before, and I've never seen that. About halfway through my drawing here, it hit me. Even though the screen has a matte coating on it, it's a really smooth matte coating. And the reason why the pen displays use these coatings, whether we're talking about Wacom or Huion or whoever, is that it adds some kind of texture. And that little bit of tooth to that screen gives it like that rough paper feel that you're looking for when you go to draw. And that gives me just so much more control over my stylus. And that was the thing that was missing here. And that's why I was getting that wobble. It wasn't the pen, it was my hand. So at one point, while I was drawing what you see in front of you here, I grabbed another pen. I grabbed the S Pen that came with one of my Galaxy tabs, and I started drawing on it. And my ability to control what I was creating here was like night and day. The S Pen has a little bit of a rubbery tip on it, and that gives it some kind of friction on the screen, whereas the ASUS pen that this comes with has a plastic tip. So taking that ASUS pen and trying it on the ASUS screen and then trying it on the Cintiq screen when I was sitting right next to it, that's it. That was the thing that was totally throwing me here. The Cintiq and other pen displays just have a rougher coating. It's such a tiny thing, something that I didn't notice at first, but man, that makes such a huge difference. Now, fortunately for me, there are a whole bunch of other styluses out there that I can try. They all draw pretty much the same, but some of them might feel a little bit more weighty. They might be lighter. They might have a rubbery nib on it, so you get more surface contact with the tip. But having that kind of flexibility where you can go out and get a stylus that you love or use one that you already have is a really nice touch. Since this is designed for creatives, going with Wacom's pen was the best choice out there. I've seen a lot of these cheap screens pop up in the last year or two that slap together a cheap panel with a USI or WPP stylus, and they call it a day, and those just aren't fun to draw on. ASUS here, they really did their homework. Do you want homework? In my Learn to Draw in 60 Days course, there's a video lesson every day with homework assignments for every day. You can go at your own pace. Each lesson builds on the last. Your skills build up over time, over 60 days. Check them out and learn more at bradsartschool.com. How was that for a super fast promo? This thing is really light. They don't advertise this as a super portable monitor. I didn't see that anywhere in their marketing material, but I think that might be one of this thing's best features and the thing that sets it apart from any other pen display out there. It is 15.6 inches, but it doesn't feel that big compared to most tablets of that size because of how light and how thin it is. I'm also running the entire thing with one single USB Type-C cable. I, of course, have laptops that can support that. If you don't, they also include like an HDMI cable and a power cable that you might need. Since the bezels are so thin and so small, it's about the same size as the laptop that I am connecting it to. I've just come off from using the latest Wacom 17. It's 4 times as thick, maybe more than 4 times as thick, at least 4 times heavier. Hold on, let me grab some stuff off the shelf here. This is the Huion 16, and it's significantly bulkier. I never thought of this. This is thin. I thought of this as thin, but this is like 2.5 times thicker than what we're talking about here. This is one of those like super inexpensive screen things that I reviewed like last year that also has pen support to it. This thing feels super duper cheap and super duper like breakable. Not to mention that the pen totally sucks. So this sits in between where you get that like super lightweight portableness of that cheap and crummy screen that I just showed you, while also getting a lot of the features and usability of that heavier, less portable Huion. This will easily fit into my laptop bag with my computer, although the screen is exposed, so it would probably scratch really bad. This does come with a bag accessory, not as much fun as just throwing it in my laptop bag, but that will keep it from getting scratched. It will take care of it. Now along the back, there are two kickstands. One is for setting this up at a drawing angle, and the other one is for standing this up at a standing angle. So you can use this as a portable monitor when you're not drawing. And along the side, there's also an ASUS style. Now I'm used to these because ASUS puts them in many of their laptops. It's kind of cool. You can customize it and you can do all sorts of different stuff. You can change brush size or zoom with it, or just even use it to do simple things like change the volume on your computer. Now the wheel on my laptop feels really nice and clicky. I've always loved using that thing. It's just fun to twist. This one is smooth. There's this little tab on there so you could like toggle on the clickiness, but it doesn't quite sit right. It's clicky-er, but it's not like a super smooth clicky. I don't know, it's just different. It doesn't feel quite as premium as what I'm used to on the laptop. Also, this thing has speakers. I did not expect that. And the speakers aren't like great. They're just kind of okay. They sound a little bit muffled. They don't get too loud, but you know, it was a nice bonus and an unexpected bonus too. Now this pen display runs through ASUS's ProArt Creator Hub. The hub has a lot of cool features and it's designed to go way beyond just controlling your tablet. There's a whole color management thing here where you can pick colors off your screen and make your own palettes and go crazy. You can group apps together and make a little desktop shortcut with them. There's an entire section in the settings that lets you build on like these custom control panels for different apps. I made one for Photoshop, so instead of needing shortcut keys, I could just keep this control panel open on the side of my screen for like brush sizing and zooming, undoing, all that fun stuff. I do wish I could make this a little bit narrower. This is a great idea. I love using it. It just takes up just a touch too much screen real estate. Now, even though they have a lot of cool new features in the control panel, this does lack some of the basic things that you would expect from like any other pen display. Like there's no place to adjust your pressure curve and test out the pen in real time to see how those pressure changes affect your pen's performance. There isn't a place in the control center to customize the buttons and shortcuts along the side of the pen. A lot of pen displays are built so there's a way to map your pen to both screens at once. So if you want to, you can change focus from your main pen display screen over to your laptop screen. And in general, I wish the UI was just like a little bit more user-friendly. Customizing my very own control panel was actually pretty easy, but I had to ask an ASUS rep, how do I turn that control panel on so I can see it on my screen? All of this is a really, really solid base to build from, but you could really tell that this is ASUS's first foray into like the pen display world, and it might take some time for the software and the drivers to catch up with where the hardware is. There are also some on-device software settings as well, and it's surprisingly in-depth. There is a settings button right here along the side of the tablet. You can toggle that on, and then you can use the wheel to navigate through all of the different settings that you would expect on any monitor. Probably more than you would expect on any monitor, really. So overall, what do I think? In general, I'm pretty impressed with what they've done here. I mentioned earlier there's a whole bunch of stuff popping up like this cheapo screen that only costs like $300 to $500, and this costs like $900. It's significantly more expensive. They got that Wacom powered pen. It's full 4K. They actually care about the panel. It's not cheap. It has a good color range. They have a whole software suite like built for this thing. And for a first generation product, I think ASUS has done a lot of good things. Many of these choices feel deliberate. But there are a couple things here that I think if you're coming from a Wacom or a Huion tablet, you're really gonna miss. I think they could really build a better pen, something that feels better in the hand, something that maybe has rougher texture on the screen so it just feels better to draw with, gives you a little bit more control. They could build out their software suite to give this pen different pressure curves. Some of the other features that we've grown used to on other pen displays out there, I think ASUS would have something really, really special here. But what do you think? Let me know down below in the comments. Thank you all for watching, and I'll talk to you in a couple of days.